Oop, I can't hear you. Is it me or is it?
Sorry, it was me. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on your time zone. Last session of the day, we are going to cover in this session the introduction to AI and cognitive services for developers and information workers. Who am I? My name is Prashant Bhoyar. I was born and raised in India, came to United States in 2007 for studies. I am University of Maryland College Park alumni. I co-authored a book, PowerShell for Office 65. I also acted as a technical reviewer for the book Pro SharePoint 2013 Administration. I am from Washington DC area, and along with Tim, we organized a lot of community conferences in Washington DC area. Pre-COVID-19 pandemic, all our conferences used to be in person, but since COVID-19 pandemic has started, we have converted all our conferences to virtual only. So thank you, Anish, for joining. And if you would like to keep yourself updated with the latest and greatest information about upcoming conferences and user group meetings, please join us on any of these meetups that we have listed here. We are planning another version of this conference in November, 12th of November. You will be getting email information about that once we have set up the sign up and registration links. I am recipient of Antarctic Service Medal. I got this award when I actually worked in Antarctic continent back in 2008. Now, I was there on a US government project and I had a experience of a lifetime while working over there. And if you are interested working in Antarctic continent, do let me know and I can connect you with the right companies and right universities where you can see some employment opportunities. I am recipient of Microsoft MVP award. So those of you who are not familiar with Microsoft MVP award, I don't work from Microsoft. It's just the additional recognition that Microsoft gives out to the folks who does technical contributions. And these technical contributions can be in the form of speaking at conferences, writing blog posts, writing books, creating training content, answering people's questions on various public forums, and also providing direct feedback to the Microsoft product group. And this award is valid for 12 months only. And after 12 months, you have to apply for renewal. And if your contributions are good enough, then Microsoft will reward you this for additional 12 months. So I'm getting this award since 2017, and my current category is AI. And currently I work at Witham as a senior solution architect. And Witham is an advisory tax and accounting firm based in the United States. We have offices in Bangalore, India as well. And I focus on intelligent business process automation, where I use variety of the products and services in Microsoft ecosystem, such as Azure AI, bots, Microsoft 365, Microsoft Power Platform, and I worked at Witham's Bethesda office. This is a quick information about our company. We have two Microsoft MVPs on the staff. We have done 100 plus Microsoft Cloud deployments. We have 50 plus consultants dedicated to Microsoft ecosystem only. And we are providing services in Microsoft ecosystem from last 17 years. And these are some of the capabilities that we have in the group that I work for. As I mentioned, you can check us out or check out the latest and greatest information about upcoming events and conferences by going to the various meetups that we have. So this session is going to be a little bit of introductory session. I know the timing is not ideal. We should have this session earlier in the day, but we had some schedule conflicts, and that's the reason we have this session towards the end of the day. I will be talking about the approach that we'll be taking for this session. Then we'll talk about what is AI, machine learning, and then we'll spend majority of the time talking about cognitive services and how easy it is to use cognitive services, even if you are a developer or you are an information worker. We will have lots of demos, key takeaways, and Q&A. And I'm using two screens here. So if you have any questions, feel free to post your questions in the chat window. I will be periodically monitoring that. And you can also use raise your hand feature in Microsoft Teams as well, or you can just simply unmute yourself. And I did see a couple of questions in the beginning around how to get access to all these products that Microsoft has. So I have two slides dedicated towards the end where you'll see some resources on how to get access to some of these features that Microsoft has in AI/ML space for free. So I will just stay tuned for that. So the approach I'm going to be taking in this session, so I'm not a data scientist. So this session is geared towards a non-data scientist. That means if you are a developer, a IT pro, or a power user, then this session is for you. So let's talk about what is AI, because understanding where we are when it comes to AI is very, very important, especially if you're thinking about using AI at work or using AI in your enterprise or using AI to solve a specific problem. So this is the definition I got from Google's AI researcher. AI is the effort to automate intellectual tasks normally performed by humans. Now, AI is not new to us. We as a humanity is using AI since World War II. Is that there is a lot of traction that happened into the machine learning and data science space in last 5 to 6 years. That's why we see a lot of hype or a lot of interest in AI. Looks like someone is not on mute. Let me quickly go and mute that person. Sorry about that. All right, looks like everyone is on mute. Perfect. So when it comes to AI, the first thing that comes into our mind is, the machines traveling across galaxy, machines invading other planets. So when it comes to AI, we can categorize AI into three categories. One is the strong AI, where machines are so powerful they can invade other planets, they can destroy other planets. So strong AI right now only exists in science fiction novels and movies. Then there is a second category of AI. It's called artificial general intelligence, or AGI, where machines are very powerful. They can perform a very, very complicated task. And the example I can give you here is, if you have seen Marvel Comics franchise Iron Man, there is a main character called Tony Stark, and Tony Stark has a personal assistant called Jarvis. Now, Jarvis is very intelligent. He can perform really complicated tasks. So that falls under AGI. Now, there is a third category, that is called weak AI. And we have in weak AI, we have specialized services for specialized tasks. And currently, we are at weak AI, and we as a humanity is trying to grow from weak AI to AGI, and from AGI to strong AI. Now, the biggest bottleneck for us to make that journey from weak AI to AGI is the processing power. So the more processing power we will have, the sooner we will make that journey. And if you have attended Frank's keynote in the morning, he did talk about quantum computing. So if the quantum computing gets mainstream, then we will see that we will progress from weak AI to AGI sooner than what we are anticipating now. Now, one of the surveys that you're seeing is uh, speech to text that you're seeing on the screen, where I'm using an out of the box option available in Microsoft PowerPoint, where real time is translating whatever I'm speaking in English to English. But I can go back and I can change that language to something else as well. So let me quickly go ahead and do that. And now I will be selecting, let's say, French. And if you have someone who's speaking French, they can validate whether the content that are getting displayed by this Microsoft services are actually correct or not. So we are here where we have specialized services for specialized tasks. And let me stop this and go back to English as a language. All right. All right. And you may be here, you may have heard about all these different terms like deep learning, machine learning, natural language processing. These are all part of AI. So this is the mission statement from Microsoft. Looks like someone is eating, and I just want to quickly mute that person real quick. I have very sensitive headphone, so it catches like any small noise that we have. All right, we are back. So this is the mission statement from Microsoft. So Microsoft want to make sure make data science and AI accessible to everyone and anywhere in the world. And it doesn't matter what your role is and what kind of device you're using. And some of the services that you see from Microsoft these days actually quite aligns really well with this mission statement. So if you are interested exploring the AI services in Microsoft ecosystem, the core AI services are part of Azure AI. And under Azure AI, we have under apps and agent, we have Azure Bot Service and Azure Cognitive Services. And under knowledge mining, we have Azure Cognitive Search. And under machine learning, we have Azure Databricks, Azure Machine Learning, and Azure AI Infrastructure. Now, if you are familiar with Microsoft Power Platform or if you're familiar with Microsoft 365, then these groups also have their individual AI services. However, these services also use behind the scene Azure AI. So Azure AI is backbone of all the AI related offerings that Microsoft has. And if you're totally new to your AI journey, these are some of the resources you can quickly follow. And also we'll be pasting in the chat window some of the Microsoft Learn tutorials that we have used for this conference as well. So let's say if you're totally new to AI in Microsoft ecosystem and you don't know when to go or where to go and which product to use. So I typically refer those folks to this particular flowchart. Like this is a very easy to understand flowchart, and depending on what you would like to do, there are various products and services available. So if you would like to build a machine learning model, then Azure Machine Learning and related services are for you. If you're not a data scientist and you would like to consume whatever pre-trained models out there, then Azure Cognitive Services and bots are for you. And in this session, we'll be focusing on Azure Cognitive Services and bots. Now let's talk about bots in Microsoft ecosystem. There were a couple of questions in the earlier session around the bots. So I will not be going into details in the bots, but will give you just enough information so you can start learning that on your own. So when it comes to bots in Microsoft ecosystem, we have two options. The first option is platform as a service, and second is software as a service. So under platform as a service, we have Microsoft Bot Framework. And it's an open source SDK and tools, and it's built for the custom bot development. It's ideal for developers, and you will be basically using custom code to build the bots. Right now, 4 major languages are supported. You can create bots using C#, Node.js, Java, and Python. However, if you would like to host your bot in Azure, then right now Azure Bot Service only supports .NET, or it is C# and Node.js. That means if you use Python or Java, then you have to host your bot yourself in other infrastructure, but not in Azure. And this is the link you can go and find more information about Microsoft Bot Framework. There will be some samples, how to get started and how to achieve certain business scenarios. Then under software as a service, we have a new product, which is a part of Microsoft Power Platform Group. It's called Power Virtual Agents. It provides you a no-code experience for bot development. Under the hood, it uses the Microsoft Bot Framework itself. And if you look at the bots that are being created by Microsoft Bot Framework versus Power Virtual Agent, for end user, it looks the same. It's just like we'll be using a different kind of mechanism and different kind of approach to build the bots. And the target audience for Power Virtual Agents are business users and domain experts. And you can easily build a working bot in less than 30 minutes. As I mentioned, behind the scene, it uses Microsoft Bot Framework itself. And you can go to this link and find more information about that Power Virtual Agent. You can also sign up for the free trial where you can just sign up for the trial and see how exactly this product works and see whether this product makes sense for your organization. You can also get Power Virtual Agents for free as well, as long as you have a proper licenses for Microsoft Teams. Now, Microsoft Teams is part of Microsoft 365 suite. And if your organization is already using Microsoft Teams, then along with that, depending on the license that you have for Microsoft Teams, your organization may be qualified for Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. It is a low-code data platform for Microsoft Teams. It supports to build low-code, no-code apps, Flow, and for most importantly, chatbots that will work within the context of Microsoft Teams only. And the license for Dataverse is already included as part of your Teams license. That means if your organization has a valid Teams license, that means you can use Power Virtual Agents for free and create the chatbots that will work only in the context of Microsoft Teams. So it's a really good way to get your hands dirty with Microsoft Power Virtual Agent and see whether that makes sense for you to use in your organization or not. And you can find more information about Dataverse for Teams by going to this particular link. Now, let's talk about machine learning. I know I mentioned in the beginning, I'm not a data scientist, and this session is not for data scientists, but it is important to understand the fundamental or the high level overview of the machine learning. So machine learning basically is you'll have a large amount of data, and in that data, we'll be looking for the pattern. And then we will use that pattern to build smarter application. So if I had to visualize this, that this is your data, which will be unstructured data, it will have some kind of patterns in it. And then you'll use the machine learning algorithm of your choice. Now, what this machine learning algorithm will help you to do is it will help you to find a specific pattern in your existing set of data. Then you generate a model from it, and then you integrate, and then that model will help you to recognize the patterns. Then you integrate that model with your application. Now, this step is very, very important. Like you have to integrate your model with the application. And then to your application, you will be feeding the new set of data, and that application then will help you to will let you know if the pattern matches or not. So why I said it's very important point for the application, because imagine a scenario where you have a really brilliant data scientist in your team, and they created a really good working machine learning model. However, to use that model, you need to integrate that model into an application. That means you need to work with developers to integrate that model into a working application so that you can make use of that model and then create an intelligent application. That means any kind of AI project will need a data scientist as well as developers, or in some cases information workers as well, to have a meaningful product. One of the example is the PowerPoint that we are using right now. I know behind the scene it's using a really sophisticated machine learning model, which is translating my text, my speech in real time into the text on the screen. However, this solution only makes sense because we have some developers who created a working application that facilitates into a working application. That means you will always need the developers to have a meaningful end product when it comes to the AI services. So these are the various styles of machine learning algorithm which are popular, and you can find more information about that by going to this particular link from Microsoft. It's called, you can just Bing or Google Microsoft Azure machine learning algorithm cheat sheet, where you find the information about this commonly used machine learning algorithms. Now with that, we are now changing the track to Azure Cognitive Services. So Azure Cognitive Services are basically a pre-trained AI services. And if you had to simplify this, each cognitive services will be available to us as part of a REST-based API. And all we need to use that cognitive service is the REST-based the REST API and the subscription key. And cognitive services are flexible. That means you can use cognitive services with any language or platform, as long as that language or platform allows you to consume REST-based API. And the machine learning models that this cognitive services use are actually a product of Microsoft Research. And Microsoft Research is doing a phenomenal job in the machine learning field. And there is a tons of documentation available on GitHub, on Microsoft site. And if you have any questions around cognitive services, you can post them on Stack Overflow. And Microsoft is paying some folks to monitor the questions and provide you the answer over there. So since cognitive services are nothing but the REST-based APIs, then where can we use this, right? So if you are a developer, then you can use that with any application that can consume REST-based API. So if you're a developer, then you can use that with JavaScript application, console application, .NET application, Java-based application, iOS, Node.js, the list goes on. And let's say if you're not a developer, if you're an information worker, if you're a power user, or if you would like to use no-code, low-code tools, then you can use that with Microsoft Flow. with SharePoint Designer 2013. It's a deprecated product. I won't recommend using this product anymore, but there are certain scenarios where this is the only product you have available at your disposal. Then you can still use this product to use to call cognitive services. Any third-party products like WinAutomate, UiPath, Blue Prism, Nintex, K2, Webcon, etc. So here I would like to pause and see if anyone has any questions. I don't see any question in the chat window. So if anyone has any question, please feel free to unmute yourself or just use the feature raise your hand in Microsoft Teams. Okay, looks like there are no questions. So let's see what are some of the practical applications of AI and ML are there. So we are quite familiar with all these practical application in our personal life. For example, if you are a customer of major credit card company or major financial institution like Citigroup, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, or Capital One, and without informing your credit card company, if you travel overseas and you suddenly went on shopping spree and you swipe your card at, let's say, 5 different vendors in less than 1 hour, then you may get a call, a text, or an email from your credit card company asking you whether is that really you who's making those purchases or somebody actually hacked into your credit card and making purchases on your behalf. Now, the reason they can do it because they have sophisticated machine learning models who can predict your spending nature. And if they see any kind of anomaly, then they just alert you. So just to make sure, someone else is not using credit card on your behalf. When you apply for a financial aid or a home loan, then this major financial institution uses a machine learning model for the preliminary yes or no. And based on the outcome of these models, then a loan officer will come and then take further steps on it. Recommendation engine, we are quite familiar with this, especially if you are using e-commerce site for shopping, for example, Amazon, Walmart, or Best Buy, or using content on YouTube or Netflix or Amazon Prime. So depending on your liking, depending on your location, age group, they will give you some various recommendation. And the only reason they can do that because they have sophisticated machine learning model working in the background. Same kind of the list goes on. Now the real challenge comes when we have to implement AI and ML solution in the enterprise space, because there are a few scenarios where we can implement. However, what I have seen personally in the last 2-3 years, very few enterprises have full-heartedly started using AI and ML. Some of the big organizations have started using it, some of the government agencies, but majority of the small to medium size, their first foray into AI and ML space is via a bot or a chatbot. So if you're looking for some of the practical things to do in your organization, then these are some of the things we can do right now. Is if your company is big in staffing, then you can create a sophisticated machine learning model as long as you have a good data set available. And then that can give you recommendation on training needs, the resourcing needs, the process improvements. If you have any processes that your company follows, and if you have a good historical data set, then you can generate some models which will give you a recommendation on processes. Now, some of the vendors and Microsoft has started implementing this kind of features in their products. Like I know Nintex has that capability, which is a Microsoft ISV, and they have products around process automation. Microsoft Power Platform also has this capability where inside Power Platform, they can give you some recommendation like how you can improve a specific workflow. Text analytics. I know like Kiran covered text analytics in detail. So there are a lot of practical applications we can do using text analytics. If your company is big in products, then you can use text analytics to analyze the product reviews. If you have a large chunk of data in your file share, and if that data or those files are not classified properly, then you can use text analytics to automatically classify those files and apply a proper metadata to it. You can use text analytics for social media analytics. You can use that for intellectual property, and the list goes on and on. So now I will be focusing more time on the demos. Before we go into the demo, please let me know if you have any questions or if you need any additional information. And again, post your question in the chat window or just unmute yourself. Looks like there are no questions. So what I will be doing next is, and you can follow these steps along with me as well. So use your favorite browser and use your favorite search engine and just search for Microsoft Cognitive Services. And the link that we are looking for is Cognitive Services API for developers. Click on that. And I recommend you to bookmark this page because here you will find the latest and greatest information about the cognitive services. And then scroll down here. On this page here towards the bottom, you will see the cognitive services are categorized into 4 categories like the decision, language, speech, and vision. Under decision, we have anomaly detector, content moderator, and personalizer. And if I select the language here, then we have language understanding, Q&A maker, text analytics, translator. Under speech, we have speech to text, text to speech, speech translation, speaker recognition, which is under preview. And under vision, we have computer vision, custom vision, face API. Now, the reason I said you should bookmark this page because every time there is a new service get added, you'll see that this particular section will get updated. So this is the good way to keep tab of what's the latest and greatest out there when it comes to Microsoft Cognitive Services are concerned. Now, let's say if you are interested in exploring any specific service, and Kiran mentioned in her talk that it will be highly unlikely if you are implementing, if you're trying to use cognitive services to solve a business problem, it will be highly unlikely if you just use one service. There will be multiple instances where you really need to use combination of services to make a working application. And so let's say if you would like to know more about a specific service, then just click on the page. In this case, I'll be opening that in the new window. And on that particular specific service, you'll see, if you scroll down, you'll see information about that service, what that service typically does, what are some of the problems this service solves. And if you scroll down, then most of the services comes with a sample application. Now, earlier, this sample application used to be interactive. That means we could play with this application and see the results in real time. But looks like in last 1 year, Microsoft has made this application read only. So we cannot really play with it. But the way this application works is we have this text box here where we have provided some text. And this text has been sent to the text analytics APIs. And whatever the result that came back is actually displayed in the right-hand section in a nice table format, like the language, key phrases, sentiment. And then if you scroll down, the name entities, PI entities, and link entities. And if you are a developer and if you are interested finding out how this particular information came back from, or in what format the information came from text analytics API, then you just have to click on the JSON tab. And here we'll see the JSON that the text analytics API has returned back to you on this particular input text that we have on the left hand side. And if you scroll down, then you see the information about like how to guides, the pricing information, some code samples. So I highly recommend you going to these particular pages. And let's say if you are interested in exploring a specific service, then find that. Now, if I try to do the same thing, let's say with decision. Let me go. Oh, let's go to the language understanding and see if there is a working sample that is available from Microsoft that we can play with. So let me scroll down here. So looks like the sample is available here that you can play with. I would highly recommend you to play with this sample and actually see how exactly or what are some of the practical use cases you can do for this particular cognitive service. Now, let's say if you are interested in specific cognitive services and now you would like to play with it. Now, the #1 thing you should keep in mind is these cognitive services are part of Azure. That means you need an Azure subscription before you can start you playing with these cognitive services. Some of the cognitive services will come with free trial, but majority of the services you need access to Azure. Now each service comes with a free tier of it. Now that means if you have a valid subscription, then you can create, let's say, a free tier of text analytics service. That means you won't get charged for it. However, you will be limited to how many calls per month you can make. So now let's say if I'm interested in exploring the text analytics API, for that I will be going to the Azure portal. And if you're seeing Azure for the first time, don't worry. It's just a bunch of configuration steps that we have to do before we start using this service. So click on create a resource. And when it comes to cognitive services, you have two options when you create a resource. So you can create a single resource, and inside that resource, you can have multiple cognitive services APIs, or you can create a specific resource for a specific service. That means I can create a one cognitive service resource where inside that I can have a text analytics API, vision API, or speech to text API, or I can just create individual services, resources for individual APIs as well. So let's say if I search for text analytics, then this is the individual API I will be creating, or I can just search for cognitive services. And if I go with this option, then I should be able to house vision, language, search, speech services using a single API. So depending on what you would like to do, you can select either or. So for the sake of simplicity and not to confuse you, I will be just going with a single service because I want to show you how the end-to-end experience looks like. So let's select the text analytics here, and then let's click on create. Let's do this. And here you have to specify the subscription name. Let me select the appropriate subscription here. Then the resource group and the region. Now, whenever you provision a cognitive service, it is very, very important to you that you pay attention to what region that service is getting provision in. The reason is whatever the pre-trained model, Microsoft has used, the results that you get may vary depending on the region that you're using. For example, if you're using computer vision API, and let's say if I select the US region, then the results will be applicable. So the result that you get will be applicable to US region. If the same service, let's say if I provision in Asia or Middle East, then the results I'll be getting from that service will take into account their local rules and local norms over there. So it's very important that you pay attention to what region you're selecting. So in our case, since we are located, or I am located in the East Coast of US, I'll be selecting that. Let's call this as Global Azure Data and AI Fest. And then pricing tier. So remember I mentioned each service comes with its free tier. So there is a free tier or a free F0 available. Now with only caveat is you can use this free tier once per subscription. So if you have already consumed this, then you cannot use it. And then the next option you have is the standard S, which is a paid option. So select that. And the next thing is you just check this box and then just click on review and create. And once you click on create, this service will get created. Now I'm not going to go ahead and click on create because I have already provisioned a service for us. And I'm just going to click on that here real quick. So once the service get created, it will look like this. And now let's click on the overview part. So a couple of things you need to use any cognitive services. You need the endpoint URL and you need the subscription key. So the endpoint URL in our case is this one. So I'm just going to copy this and paste this in a notepad. And then you also need the keys and the endpoint. So click on the keys and endpoints. And these are the two keys that you have, and make sure you don't share these keys with anyone, because if I have access to your keys and if I know your endpoint, then I can make calls on your behalf and you will get end up paying for it. So I'm just going to copy it, and I'm not going to show it because this is getting recorded. I pasted that. And if this is the first time you are playing with, you are seeing the Azure. So one good thing I like about Azure is whenever you create a new resource or a new service, then in the left hand section, you will see this option called Quick Start. So click on that. And here you will see a really good tutorials from Microsoft that can help you get started with this service. For example, if I click on the Quick Start, I will see a tons of documentation available, tons of sample available, like how to consume this text analytics API using C#, Python, Node.js, and some other, and how can I use this inside the containers as well. And I can find more information about this. But for the basic usage, all we need is this endpoint URL and the key. As long as you have that information, then you can start consuming this cognitive service in your application. Now, before I go to the next set of demo, any questions or comments so far? All right, I take that as a no. So what we're going to do next is, thank you, George. What we're going to do is the next set of demo I have is focused on information workers or power users. So how you can create a meaningful AI application using this congruity service without writing a single line of a code. So what I have done for this one is, let me bring this here. So the business case is very simple. Let's say your company launched a new initiative for your internal employees, and the company would like to quickly get the feedback of the employees. And let's say if your employee count, if your company is 10,000 employees, and let's say roughly 80% of the employees submitted this feedback, and now you have close to 8,000 reviews that you have to read and you have to comprehend and find out whether the feedback is positive or whether there is some concerns around that. And you can address this problem via two ways. You can have some folks reading those reviews one by one and then try to comprehend how was the feedback, or you can use cognitive services and text analytics API and can automatically do this within a few hours. So we will be going with the second option. So what I have done is I have just created a simple form. And again, this form is built in SharePoint, but you can use any technology of your choice as long as you have a form and as long as you know where you're storing the user's input. We can use that in our automation. So here we just be providing some feedback. So let's say, let's call it as Global Azure Data and AI Fest and 2021. And let's do a comment. Let's say cognitive services. Awesome. And I don't know how to pronounce spell cognitive services. Okay. Now, if you see there are three fields, and I'm intentionally leaving them blank, like the sentiment score, then the language, and the key phrases. So what we'll be doing is there is a backend automation in place where the moment I save this form, we'll be calling an automation, and that automation will make sure this text is getting sent to the text analytics API, and whatever the results come back, then we are updating those results in this particular three fields here. Now let's quickly click save. And so as you can see, this particular sentiment score, the language and key phrases are blank right now. And the automation has started in the beginning. If you wait 1 more minute, everything will get updated, but we will not wait. And I will quickly show you how the backend automation is implemented. Now for this, what I have used is I have used a product called Microsoft Flow. It is a part of Microsoft Power Platform, but as I mentioned, you can use any other product as well, as long as that product we can use Microsoft Cognitive Services. So I have created three separate flows. One is to detect language, another one is to detect sentiment, and third one is to detect the key phrases. So let me go here and show you the example one by one. And the implementation is very, very simple. And it just took me like less than 10 minutes to do the implementation. So let me quickly go and edit this. So this particular flow starts whenever a new comment get added. And the first thing it does is it uses this action, which is out of the box called key phrases. And all it does is it passes the text that the user has entered. And here, if I click on the three dots, then here I can add the connection to my cognitive service. So if I click on add a new connection, then let's give it a name as Global Azure Data and AI Fest. Then you have to paste your key here and you have to paste your site URL. And remember, we got that information from Azure. So if I go into my Azure page here, I just had to copy this and then paste that here. And then the next thing is I had to copy the key and paste it here. And once it is there, I just had to save, create, and that's it. That means I have configured the connection from this flow to my cognitive service. And then whatever the response that comes back, then we are just using that response and adding that back to the original request or form that user has submitted. Same kind of implementation we have for the language, and same kind of implementation we have for the sentiment as well, where we are using a specific action which is available out of the box for to detect the language, and here to detect the sentiment. Now let's go back, and most likely this has been already updated. So you see the sentiment score has come to closer to 1.0, it is 0.94. That means the statement is positive. The languages came back as EN, and EN stand for English, and the key phrases is cognitive service. So this was very simple, basic implementation where we didn't have to write a single line of code to have a meaningful application. You can also use the same APIs to classify the contents as well. So that I will be doing as part of the next demo. And looks like I need to mute someone again. So give me a minute. All right. Okay. Any questions so far? All right. So a couple of things I want to point out, which may not be clear to you regarding the text analytics API. So text analytics API we can use for language detection, key phrase extraction, sentiment analysis. We can do advanced natural language processing. However, if you are a developer, then you need to understand there will be a different endpoint available for each type of operation that you are doing. For example, this will be your generic URL of your endpoint, which is the name of your service, which is in this case is going to be east2s2.api.cognitive.microsoft.com. And after that /text/analytics/ the current version. And depending on what you would like to do, if I would like to extract the key phrases, then I had to add /key phrases. If I had to extract the language, then I had to do /language. If I had to extract the sentiment, then I had to do /sentiment. And if I had to do the entity recognition, then I had to make the call in this particular way. So if you have played with REST API, then you may be familiar with this. And each API will have a different URL or different request that you have to make. And you just have to go to that specific service page and you will find information from Microsoft. OK, if I had to do this particular operation, what kind of API call I had to make. So with that, we are going to a demo where now we will be using the custom code. And the demo that we have is we have again used a very practical application or or common problem that we have seen across the organization. Like if your company is in the business for more than 5 years, then most likely you'll have tons and tons of data or documents that are not properly classified. So in the next set of demo, what we're going to do is we will be using text analytics API, and we'll use the text analytics API to classify the documents. So for this, what I have done is I have a couple of documents on my machine. So let me quickly open that real quick. So all I have is I have two Word documents here. First document is test doc1, and let me open that real quick. And also I'll be opening the second document as well. So what we'll be doing is using the text and using the custom code, we'll be reading the contents of this page, this document, and then we will pass this content to the text analytics API, and whatever the results come back, then we will use that result to tag these documents. So the first document has a statement as cognitive services are awesome, Microsoft is awesome, and AI is awesome. And the second document has some text and has an image in it. And this image is of my team members along with me. And we have the statement here, let's make USA great again. So this particular sample, what I have done is I have used C# for this. It's a console application built using C#. But as I mentioned, you can use any language of your choice as long as that language allows you to consume REST-based API. So the first thing we are doing in this one is, and again, the source code of this is available on the GitHub. If you go to my GitHub page, you will find this particular source code that I'm using here. So the implementation is very, very simple. What we are doing is starting from line number 28 to 33 is we are reading the contents of the document located in a specific directory. And then we are sending the contents to the text analytics API. The first thing we are doing is we are getting the key phrases and we are making the call to the key phrases API. The second thing is we are doing the languages, getting the languages. And the third one is and where does the sentiment sorry, first is sentiment, second is key phrases, and third one is the language. Now there is one interesting thing I would like to show you here is, remember I mentioned that depending on what you would like to do, your endpoint will be different. So for example, now this is the endpoint URL of our text analytics service in Azure. Now, if I had to make a call to the sentiment, to do the sentiment analysis, then this will be my endpoint URL will be, which is my cognitive services URL, then /text analytics, the version, and then /sentiment. If I do the key phrases, then it will be /key phrases. If I do the language, then it will be /languages. Now let's run this in the debug mode, and we will be stepping through the code one by one. And while this is happening, this is a good time to ask any questions that you may have. All right, so I'm just quickly gonna go through this. All right. All right, now let me show you the output real quick. So the first thing we'll be showing you is the sentiment score. So now the way the sentiment score work is you will getting sentiment score, and this is the format that came back from the API. I know, like, if you are a power user, this may not be readable for you, but it's okay. This is more for developers. So developers can extract the information from this return value or return JSON. So here we have sentiment score is coming up and the sentiment score for a specific sentence as well. So if you go with the key phrases, so for the document one, these are the key phrases that came, which are cognitive services, Microsoft AI. For the document two, the key phrases came as US election. And when it comes to language, it correctly predicted the first document is written in English, the second document is also written in English, and the confidence score is pretty close, like it is close to 100%. So using this information, then you can take additional processing where if you are, let's say you are moving all these documents to a public cloud, you're moving to, let's say, Dropbox or Box or Microsoft OneDrive, or let's say in Amazon S3 or Azure Blob Storage, or any other vendor's file system. And then while moving the documents, you can quickly do the similar operation and add proper tags. So that means the language tag, what this document is all about. And that way you have a proper classification of the documents. Similar thing you can do with the images as well, for the videos as well. Okay, let's see. So we talked about this. I know we are coming close to the session. We already talked about that. So one thing you need to keep in mind is the cognitive services. Most of the cognitive services use pre-trained model, and there are very few selected services which allows you to use your own data to train that service. Now, there may be some scenarios where the results that are coming back from the cognitive services will not work for you, or if you have a generic use case that you would like to, if you have a generic problem that you would like to solve, then some of the cognitive services may not work for you. And in that case, you would like to use your proprietary machine learning model, or if you would like to use any open source model which was created for that particular problem, then there is another product available in Microsoft ecosystem called Azure Machine Learning. Now, I'm not going to go deep into it because this tool is more for data scientists. But one particular thing I want to highlight about this tool, which is very, very important, is let's say you have a team of really good data scientists. They can use Azure Machine Learning to build a really nice model, and then they can deploy that model as a web service so that the developers can then use that web service and start adding intelligence to the application. For example, I have a page here for, and this is again the classic Azure Machine Learning Studio, where I have deployed a model, but if I go on this page, then I will see a sample code available to consume this model as a web service. And this sample code is available in C#, Python, Python 3+, and R. So that means using this product, you can have a really nice integration between developers and the data scientists. I see a question there is how big the data required for text cognitive analytics. So Susan, can you elaborate? So it can be as simple as like few lines of text. However, one thing you have to keep in mind is this service or this cognitive services are hosted by Microsoft, right? And those will be hosted in Microsoft infrastructure. And these are available to us as part of the API. That means there will be a limitation on how much content I can pass to those specific service. And that will be governed by the limitation that we typically have on the web applications. So I need to, so you can go and find and read documentation on an individual service. I think there is a limit on how many lines of text we can pass in a single request. However, that limit will vary on each service. So that's a good question. Like if I have a document with, let's say, 200 pages, I will not be able to pass the text from the 200 pages in one request call. I have to divide that, and you can just find Microsoft documentation. How big can be your payload, and then if that doesn't fit into your current use case, then you have to just make multiple requests instead of one request, if that makes sense. So I know there are some questions around, okay, all these products are really good, but I haven't really tried this product. So how can you get access to this? Now, if you are interested exploring the Power Virtual Agents or some of the AI capabilities as an information worker or power user, then there is a really good program available from Microsoft called Microsoft 365 Developer Tenant or Developer Program, where just go to this particular link and sign up for this program, and it's free. Once you sign up, you get a personal Microsoft 365 subscription with E5 license. Now it's really good for personal training and development. It comes with 25 users and it's valid for 90 days. And if you use this subscription for personal training and development, Microsoft will graciously increase your trial period for additional 90 days. And they will keep doing it as long as this program is active and you are using this tenant for personal training and development. I'm personally using a tenant through this program from last 1.5 years. So you can imagine, as long as this program is active, or you can then use this tenant. And this tenant will come with Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Exchange, SharePoint, and also you can sign up for the free trial of Power Virtual Agent. And you can also use Power Virtual Agent as part of Microsoft Teams as well. So this is a really good way to get your hands dirty and have your own environment and not to pay for it. Then to use cognitive services, you need Azure subscription. Now there are multiple ways where you can get personal Azure subscription. My personal or recommended one is get that via MSDN subscription. If you already have MSDN subscription, then go to your portal, MSDN portal, and you may be qualified for some predefined credits for free per month. And the good thing about these credits are, let's say if you run over your credits, then your subscription will stop working and you don't have to pay anything extra. And you just have to wait for the next month so that your credit get reassigned and you can start using the services. You can also sign up for free trial depending on your country. The credit that you get for free varies. I think right now in US you get $200 of credit that you can use, and also any service that is free you can use that won't be charged against your credit. However, you do need to use your credit card. There is another program available from Microsoft called Azure for Students. So here you don't need a credit card. All you need is a valid EDU account, and you can go and you get like $100 credit in United States, and that credit may vary depending on your country. So please check the documentation by going to this particular link. But if you or someone in your family is going to school and if you have a .edu account, I highly recommend that you go to this link and find out whether where your account qualifies for this free $100 credit or not. Hopefully the content we covered today made you explore the cognitive services and Azure machine learning. And if you don't have access, then definitely check out the Microsoft 365 developer program, where at least you can get started with chatbots for free. So we covered all these topics, and we'll be also posting the link to the Microsoft Learn tutorials as well. So with that, we come to the end of the talk. These are my contact details. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email me. I'm also available on Twitter. I'm also available on LinkedIn as well. With that, thank you very much for coming. Stay safe and stay healthy, and let us know if you have any follow-up questions.
All right, Prashant, thank you very much. Doesn't look like there's any questions in the chat area. It looks like Kieran actually knocked out a bunch. So thank you for doing that, Kieran. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.